Hello, my loves, and welcome back to another guest episode on Unfuck Your Life, the show for ambitious women who are ready to calibrate to their next level. Now, today's guest is Emma Mumford, and she's UK's leading manifestation expert. I'm so stoked to have her here with me today. She's an absolute queen, you babes. She's a 4-time best-selling author. She's a speaker. She's also a podcast host of the Aligned Abundance podcast, so definitely go check that out later as well. And Emma has empowered hundreds of thousands of people worldwide through her content and her programs to manifest their own dream lives. And she has a decade of experience. I love how her teachings blend mindset and energy work, and also embodiment work, spiritual alignment, because that's something that I always teach and preach and I'm huge on. So I think this is going to be a super fun convo. So Emma, welcome to Unfuck Your Life. It's so great to have you on here.
Thank you so much, Laura, for having me. I'm so excited to chat with you today.
Oh, it's going to be a fun little chat. We're going to talk about alignment work. We're going to talk about manifesting and nervous system regulation and why it's important to manifest, not just from our minds, but from our bodies and our nervous system pretty much. So it's going to be an interesting one. Let's start it off by having me ask you something, Emma, and that is that you always say, and I stand fully behind that alignment isn't necessarily about doing more, proving more, working harder. It's about feeling more and being more in your body, being more present, because our emotions obviously co-create our realities. And so when did you realize for yourself in your own journey that actually this is the most effective way to manifest, is like with our body, with our frequency, with the power of our emotions and our nervous system, rather than just relying on vision boards, affirmations, taking action, doing the things all the time, right? Like, when did you realize, oh, actually there's a more feminine way, let's say, or like a more easeful way that is actually also more efficient?
Yeah, great question. And for me, it's pretty recent, in all honesty. It was probably since 2021 where I've really kind of had that huge shift. And we moved into this house in 2023. We bought our first house together. And it was really weird because
Congratulations.
thank you, because we were working with the energy of the house, and I'd never done that with a house before. And I knew
Ooh,
before my previous house was like a very divine masculine energy. Like I hustled in that house. Whereas in this
yeah,
house, I
get
kept
that.
getting this intuitive download of like, yeah, you're never going to work in that same way again. This house is going to slow you down. You're going to have a chill girl
Love it.
summer. Like all the divine feminine vibes, ease. And I just knew this house was like saying to me, you can't do it in the way you've done it before. You've got to
Wow.
slow down. You've got to be that magnet. So really, I focused on alignment in my work since 2021. And that's been a journey of, like you say, stepping into that more divine feminine
Yeah.
energy, healing that within myself. But really, I've been doing the inner work probably since 2019, but it's funny how it kind of one thing after the other leads you to a new
Mhm.
depth, a new kind of lesson, whether that's in a child work, whether that's divine feminine work. So for me, yeah, definitely since 2021, I've really kind of learned and embodied these tools and kind of seen it play out in my life. Because before, and I don't know about you, Laura, but a lot of the old school manifestation teachings, like they're very kind of divine masculine focused. They're like, you must do more. If you're not seeing your results, you need to do more affirmations, you need to do
Mhm.
more this, write more lists,
Mhm.
do this, do that. So I think I was very much following those old school teachings of, well, it's obviously not here because I need to do more. And I'm a Virgo in my sun sign. I'm a projector in human design, Aries rising. You can tell that work is my natural state of being. I have no
Yeah.
issue working. But for me,
Girl, same. I'm a generator. I'm a workhorse. I love it. So I get it.
it's just so natural. So to actually
Yeah.
step back and unwire that and look at why I was hustling in work, but also hustling in my manifestations was a huge
Yeah.
awakening call to me to realize actually there is an easier way of doing it. And, along my alignment journey, I started discovering the more energetics of manifestation and really diving into that and realizing there was so much power in magnetizing and manifesting from my divine feminine as well as my masculine, instead of just pushing, forcing, hustling, because that's not actually manifestation. That's just making shit happen.
Mhm.
Manifestation is a co-creation process, and I don't think I ever fully allowed myself to co-create, but it served me. That's only what 4 years ago, and I've been manifesting for over a decade. So for those first 6 years, I still manifested great things. But now, in the last sort of 4 years, what I've seen is that my manifestations have just gone to this whole new level, this whole new magnetism, where it is so much easier and effortless. And I'm like, right, what's the secret sauce? What is this sauce that I've discovered? And I 100% believe it's nervous system regulation and allowing my body to feel safe enough to receive and hold those desires. Because a little bit of backstory for people, I've been diagnosed with PTSD, OCD, and I experienced anxiety and depression for a lot of my life. So I had a lot underneath the layers, a lot underneath the surface in terms of inner work and trauma. So really teaching my body was that final piece. Like the cognitive work, fine, done that, nailed that, but it was almost like that final piece of the healing puzzle was the body work, was the somatic work of bringing it into the body, because that's where we bring our desires into reality. So now it feels so much more easy, effortless, magical, and that is available to everybody.
I love that you're saying this. I really, really resonated with you saying, well, I've done the work on myself for like a really long time, like years and years before. But there's different, I almost feel like there's different stages to this, right? Like you're starting with your mindset and you're starting understanding there is limiting beliefs. Like there's like different sections, almost like different seasons that you move through. And I can really, really relate to what you said in terms of realizing, well, at a point, it's like, it's no longer the mindset work, it's no longer affirmations, it's like it's the trauma work, and it's the safety in our bodies that a lot of females don't actually feel. They're literally in survival, they're literally in functional freeze. They're like their body is just not fully present, not fully open, because when we're not feeling safe, we're not open to receive anything, right? And so I really love how you pointed that out. And it's for sure a journey to understand, well, there is a different way to manifest. And what you said really hit home in terms of a lot of, especially women, because I'm saying this because we're having mostly female listeners. Most of the women listening have been in this place of wanting to push through, wanting to make shit happen. And it's great to have a mindset of, I'm going to be in charge and responsible, and I'm going to go after what I want. But then there's also this feminine element, which you said is like nervous system regulation and feeling safe and worthy of receiving, which a lot of people feel like I shouldn't receive if I haven't proved myself, if I haven't earned it the hard way through sweat and tears and blood, sweat, tears, right? Like all of that. And so I really love how you're emphasizing this, and that you got to this point of, oh, it gets to be this easy. And especially you saying you had to switch environments really stood out for me, because I think for a lot of people, they need some sort of, not necessarily like breakthrough, but like a moment where there is a huge change happening for them in order to understand actually how I've been doing things. It worked till now, but like now I get to do things differently and really understand, oh, there is a more aligned way that resonates more. And so for you, that's been doing this type of work. And I'm curious, how did you start with this? What did it look like moving into this new house? Like, what did you tangibly change around the way you were approaching life, business, your manifestations, as you said? Like it started feeling a lot easier, softer, more effortless. And it started becoming exponential, you said too, which same for me, like manifesting from my feminine, way more powerful than manifesting from a masculine. And fusing the two is like exponential magic. So what has that like particularly intangibly looked like for you?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say it was kind of free will. I'd say the universe was like, right, you are absolutely going through this dark night of the soul. And it was really strange because it was the summer of 2023, and we'd just bought this place, we just moved in. And I just knew that nothing was the same. The energy was different, and how I was showing up was different. I just felt so burnt out. And I had a reading with my friend who's a psychic, and she pulled the Tower card, and I was like, put that card back. I am not having the Tower card as my summer card. And I was like, for God's sake, like I've just moved into this house, and I just couldn't work out why it felt like so many endings. So personally, I was in a year 9 cycle in numerology. So that will tell everybody in terms of, because collectively in 2025, we're in a year 9 cycle universally. So we're feeling those themes of endings, wrap ups, conclusions, justice, closures, endings, all of it. And this was my 2023 on a personal year cycle. So once we moved into the house, it was almost like this catalyst of huge spiritual growth, but also a huge dark night of the soul. So I decided, even before that Tower card came up, to have 2 months off work. I had never done that in the whole 10 years of my entrepreneurial career. I was like, I need 2 months off. I just want to focus on me, get connected to myself again, enjoy the house, decorate the house, do the garden up. And I was like, I'm going to take these 2 months off for myself. And it was almost like declaring that space. The universe was like, right, we know exactly what you need in those 2 months, a huge spiritual awakening and dark night of the soul. So that's when the Tower card came up. And I just felt like I was going through this huge dark night of the soul. And in that summer, very early on, thank God my friend Hannah was staying down with me at that point. But basically, randomly, right before the summer solstice, I had had childhood abuse memories resurface out of nowhere. I'd suppressed them for 30 years, had no prior awareness of them. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, boom. And it was almost like that kind of life card moment, or life truck moment as I call it, where life was never the same again. And over those 2 months, I was not then having a hot girl summer of enjoying my time off. I was having a healing girl summer of deep trauma work and working with EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, with my therapist to process this trauma, to process this new reality. And I always say it was such a weird experience, because when you think your life's been one way for 30 years of your life, and then all of a sudden your childhood was a completely different reality, it just felt like all that healing work I'd done for so many years before, I almost had to like re-heal it all from this new level of awareness and from this new reality. So for me, I always felt like, and I talk about this in my book, Hurt, Healing, Healed, that it almost felt like there was a missing puzzle piece when it came to my healing. Like I could, and I have done for so many years in one-to-ones, I can pinpoint someone's experiences and trauma and history and beliefs so easily, but I could never quite correlate why I was the way I was, or why I had suicidal thoughts for so many years, why I was depressed, why I had anxiety, why I had PTSD. Yes, there were, traumatic relationships in my adulthood, but I knew there had to be a point in my childhood that something stemmed from, and I could never pinpoint it. And it was almost like that awakening and that realization of those memories was the final missing puzzle piece. So it actually wasn't as hard as I thought it would be to recall them and process them, because I'd done so much work already. It was more of a case of acceptance and peace of, it makes sense. I know who I am now. I know why I am the way I am. I know why my life's been this way. And it kind of gave me that permission to move forward. So yeah, this house really was a catalyst for so much change in that summer. And really, like, from those 2 months off, nothing was the same again, as you can imagine. It was really kind of a journey then of, well, who am I? Now I'm 30, now I've stepped into this portal, now I'm in a new decade of my life. I know who I am. I know what happened in my childhood. So it just felt like nothing could be done in the same way again. And that's really where that healing and feminine came in, because I didn't want to push in the way that I had before either. It was like I didn't want to work in the same way. So I let go a lot of my offerings in my business. I reevaluated how I spent my time. I committed every single year to having a month off in August so that I could fill my cup, go away, do some fun things, just have fun, and, invite that fun
Have a
back into my life.
summer break.
Yeah.
I
So
love that.
yeah, it really triggered off a lot in my life, as you can tell. But it wasn't something that I planned. It wasn't something that I intentionally went in and said, right, that's what I want to do with my summer. It was what I needed.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing. Like, that's incredible. And I can only imagine how you then realized, well, life until this point has been a certain way based on my previous level of awareness about like myself and my childhood and everything. And then it suddenly changed. And I'm curious, so like you said, you shut down some offerings that maybe didn't feel aligned anymore with that new version of you. What changed in your life, in your routines, in your maybe also your wellness routines, your approach to business, your approach to anything that you find meaningful and important? How has it tangibly changed for you? Like, what did you do differently, basically?
Yeah. I think nervous system work was something in regulation that was just so important to me from that
Yeah.
place, because I really started to learn more about the nervous system. I was writing Aligned Abundance at the time as well. So
Oh,
it
wow.
was a journey that I was living and breathing as I was writing and learning. And for me, it was, my team are so tuned on to like flow and somatic work and like regulation. And, when I hired Leanne, for example, in my team, I think it was 3 years ago now, I actually was like, what does she mean, like nervous system regulation in a business? Like, what is this? And now I'm like, this is why I needed you. Like, you've brought this into my business clearly. So it's funny how those whispers were there even before I was consciously even working on those things. So yeah, I'm so lucky that I have a team around me, one to support me. And I think that that was a huge revelation from that summer as well, of it's okay to ask for help, and actually you have a team
Mm.
there to step up. Like, you don't need to keep doing it all by yourself. You don't need to keep running this ship by yourself and
Mm.
holding everything. Like, you have
Yeah.
a team to help you do that as well. So yeah, definitely big shifts around delegation and how I showed up to business. And I really realized as well that it was kind of creatively zapping me as well, like carrying all this mental load and work and life and
Mm.
business. So the more that I, accepted help, worked on my receiving muscle, which is that divine feminine piece, in personal life with my
Yeah.
husband, with like, work with my team, it just really allowed me to soften more and to feel more and be more intuitive in my work, which I was before, but it was led from a very masculine space, whereas this was led from a very different space. And it allowed me to realize, actually, you need more spaciousness in your life. Like, I look at how I was working in that old house. I could easily do like back to back interviews, like sessions all day, like easy. Could do it all, didn't even sweat. Whereas now I'm like, whoa, I can't be doing that. Like, I need to have more space
Yeah.
in my day. I need to be more intuitive with it. I need to like create spaciousness. And in that spaciousness is so much magic as well, which is why I commit to doing it, because, there's spaciousness in terms of, if I'm having a day where I feel overwhelmed or dysregulated, I'm able to slow down and have that spaciousness. And also, I feel like I perform so much better and I'm so much more productive when I actually have more space in my calendar and actually listen to my body and work with, how my emotions are that day or what I'm
Mm.
feeling. So I think it's really interesting, because when I used to hear my peers say this years ago, like, I'm friends with Rebecca Campbell, and she's always been the person who's like, Emma, I just do what I want when I want. I never plan anything. I never schedule anything.
Love her.
And I'm like, how do you live, Rebecca? Like, that is so stressful. Like, I need a calendar. I need to be like scheduled. I need to know where I'm going to be. I show up on time. Like, I am a classic Virgo through and through. And surprisingly, she's actually a Virgo as well. Whereas now I feel like I get it more of like, actually, I'm more in my power when I can flow more. And I am in
Mm.
alignment with honoring like what this season of my life is bringing me.
I love this because I think what you're saying is so true. It doesn't have to be only one, or bless you, only one or the other. It doesn't necessarily have to be you as a Virgo being like, okay, ditching my calendar, not being on time anymore, only flow. Let's just see what the day brings. I think there is really a way to unite the two, right? And go, okay, like I'm gonna tune into my body and see what do I need, how's my energy, do I have any interviews, and I maybe, like, if you feel sick, obviously you'll reschedule, you won't push through and like take a pill and like make it work, right? Like, you're more gentle with yourself, and at the same time you can still know what the needle movers are, be on time for a meeting, like, right, like all those things. So I think for me that it's been very similar actually, in the way that I used to back calls, like very scheduled, and I still have a schedule to this day, and I still believe in that, and it gives me structure, and it gives me an idea of what needs to happen that day. And at the same time, I have a lot of white space in between where I can flow, where I can rest, where I can work on something creative, right? And I think there's a lot of beauty in that. And so I love how you said slowing things down, creating more spaciousness, asking for support, to receive, to learn to receive and feel good about that, instead of being like, oh, well, then I haven't earned the success because I have had help. Or like, that was for me, for instance, that was like a big thing for so many years. I would pride myself with, I won't hire a mentor because I can do it by myself. Or like, oh, I don't need another team member, I can quickly do this. But like those like, I can quickly do this by myself things, they keep adding up, and then you have a 9-10 hour workday instead of like a 6 hour workday, right? And so I think this is really, really beautiful, and I love how you've been finding your way into that after realizing, well, I am more efficient and more productive and happier and more fulfilled when I do get to rest and take it a little bit more slowly. So something that you always say is, and I fully subscribe to that, your frequency is the strategy. Can you explain that for everybody listening who doesn't quite know what you mean by it? And also, how important is vibration when it comes to manifesting, and what else does matter? Because obviously there are so many components to calling in something that you want that go beyond just your vibration, just the frequency. So yeah, why do you say frequency is the strategy, and what else is behind it?
Yeah, and it's so important because, I don't actually say frequency is the strategy. That was someone's
I saw
real
it on your Instagram.
interview. Yeah, it's a reel I was on. So when I saw it, I was like, that's quite a cool saying, but it's not actually a saying I say. So I say
Okay,
alignment
perfect. Let's
over
unpack that.
everything. So I'm like alignment over everything because
Mm.
at the end of the day, years ago, especially when I was manifesting, like right in the early days, it, like I said, it was like doing things like how many practices can I do? Like I need to do more practices if I want to manifest things. And
15-step
now,
morning routine.
literally, how stressful is that? Literally, how stressful. So, yeah, what I really kind of discovered in my unpacking of all of this is a lot of the time people believe, and I hear this time and time again, I don't know about you, Laura, but people say to me like, oh my gosh, I've had a negative thought today. I went for a job interview and afterwards I thought like, you're never going to get it. And I've sabotaged it. That's it. I'm never going to get the job. What do I do? And I just really want to say to those people that thoughts are such a small percentage of what creates your reality. I'm someone with clinically diagnosed OCD. I have OOCD, which is obsessive thoughts. And for me, my thoughts are wild most days, literally. If anybody has OCD, they will know exactly what I mean by this, that your thoughts are just random as hell. And even for someone who doesn't have OCD, we have between 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day. Not all of them manifest. We do not live in a world of instantaneous manifestation. I come from the era of learning about manifestation over the last decade, where it was very much taught in these old school teachings of if you think a negative thought, bad things are going to happen. So
Exactly,
immediately
right? And instantly you get so
I'm
scared.
like,
You're like, oh, I need to, you basically in the state of bypassing every negative thought or feeling because you're so scared. You're like, go away, go away, go away, because you don't want it to manifest
literally,
instead of sitting with it and like
literally.
processing it and then releasing it, right? It's like so scary.
100%. And I remember so vividly, really early in my journey, again, completely undiagnosed OCD at this point. So what I was having was a spiral of thoughts. But again, I
Yeah.
didn't know that's what it was at that point. And I remember just feeling like a failure, feeling like I was rubbish, feeling like I just couldn't master this manifestation stuff because I was walking around the supermarket having these intrusive, limiting belief thoughts about like, well, who are you to do that? It's just not going to happen for you, all these different things. And I would like do the reframing of, Emma, stop, reframe it into a positive, like reframe it into a gratitude, and it would just get louder and louder and louder and repetitive.
Because you're bypassing it, right? I think a lot of people
Yeah.
don't realize that that's not sustainable. Like you can't constantly keep telling yourself, no, like I can't do that, I can't feel that way, I can't. Like it's like
Yeah.
no, like be present with it, right? Like be okay with it.
Feeling is healing, and what we
Yeah,
resist persists. And for me, that was that classic
exactly.
example of resisting the very thoughts that I needed to go into to start doing that healing piece. So
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people think that, and we hear it, thoughts create our reality. Yes, to some degree. But what
To
I really want
some
people,
degree. Yeah.
like a teeny tiny degree. But what I really want people to take from this is what actually creates your reality is your frequency, your energy, your identities, and your habits. So what I mean by that is, yes, our beliefs do create our reality. But if you have one thought in a day of like, oh, is it really worth doing that? Or is it really going to happen for me? That's not going to sabotage your desire. If that is your consistent, persistent vibration, and every single time you think of that desire, that's the thought that comes up, that's
And
different.
you act on it.
And you act
Or
on
don't
it.
act. Yeah.
So, what I would say here is judge your thoughts by how they feel, not by how often they come up. So, if you have a thought and it's emotionally charged and it's triggering, that needs to be worked on. That's inner work. But if you have a thought and you think, why the heck am I thinking that? That's random. And there's no
Yeah.
emotional charge, see it as neutral. So I think the more we can see our thoughts as neutral and we can see our thoughts as just thoughts, we then home in and focus on what's really important in the manifestation process of alignment, of energy, of frequency. So if 99.9% of the time, like, you're feeling good, you're in alignment, and you feel good overall, that is what is creating your reality, not that 0.1% of a bad thought you had. So absolutely, honor those days where you feel like crap, honor those days where you feel helpless, you feel like it's not going to happen, because there's gold in that. The message is in the mess, as they say. And you know, those days that we really honor feeling down or feeling low or feeling like, oh, why am I doing this? It helps you to reconnect to your why. It helps you to align with where you're going. If something's out of alignment, how do you know it's out of alignment unless you slow down and reflect and, you know, have those kind of come to your knees moments of, why is it not working? Like, what am I doing wrong? So everything is feedback in that sense, and that alignment piece is really about homing in on your frequency, your energy, and those identities. So who you are, who you're showing up as, your core beliefs and values. That is what creates your reality and what powerfully creates your reality, not those thoughts that we all have as human beings every single day.
I love this, and I love that you're saying some people literally like start to feel scared of their thoughts, and they're like, "Oh, like this is bad," or even their emotions, like, "Oh, I feel sad today. I shouldn't feel sad." Like, right? Like you're literally you're bypassing yourself and your own experience. And so I think for everybody listening who sometimes has those moments of like, oh shit, I shouldn't be sad, I shouldn't be angry, I shouldn't be anything that's like a lower vibrational, you don't have to be high vibrational 100% of the time. Obviously, in an ideal world, like, yes, most of the time we are, because that is a good frequency to put out there, but it doesn't have to be 100% of the time. That's literally impossible. Not even Tony Robbins is constantly feeling high on life like 100% of the time, and that's okay. We got to be human. I also love how you said into the whole like identity piece plays beliefs, core beliefs, as you said, but then also values and patterns and habits. And I think habits is a huge one, because that also shapes how we see ourselves, right? Like our habits literally dictate how we see ourselves, how much we respect ourselves, our self-image, how we relate to and feel about ourselves. And so for everybody who's struggling with, let's call them quote unquote bad habits, like for instance, drinking too much, eating too much sugar, going to sleep too late, not working out, like all those things, what is something that you would give those people that want to raise their vibration by shifting their identity, by having better habits? Because it also does start with that to a certain degree. What is something that you would advise someone who wants to raise their vibration that way through also their actions, not just their thoughts and their emotions, but like on a more tangible level?
Yeah, well, I first want to circle back to what you said there, Laura, because it was such a great piece on, you know, we can't be high vibe all the time. And I want to actually bring in the law of polarity here, because the law of attraction is one of 7 energetic laws of the universe.
Yeah.
So there's 6 others. And we pigeonhole the law of attraction and we're like, woo, it's everything. And don't get me wrong, I love it. I teach it. I preach it. I sing it all day long. But there are 6 other energetic laws. And the law of polarity is one that I work with hugely in Hurt, Healing, Healed, but I work with hugely in my day-to-day life as well, of how would we know what a good day is if we've never experienced a bad day? How do we know what
Thank
happiness
you.
is if we never experienced
Duality.
duality in its prime? So duality serves us. It is part of our human existence. And I think, like you said, we want to suppress the uncomfortableness so much, which will lead me into your next question of habits, when actually when we can feel the uncomfortableness and sit with it and honor it, it passes through so much quicker than if we resist it and fight it and try and be like, I must be love and light, because love and light comes with duality too. That is the spiritual experience. It's not just love and light, it's also the divine feminine, the darkness, duality, all of this, the shadow. And our shadow is only ever something that needs to be loved back into the light. It's not something to fight or think evil or push away. But yeah, let's talk about habits. So I see this as embodiment. So one thing that I've really learned, and again, love a practical tip here as a Virgo, is when I am going to bed late, I'm not doing my reading every day that I love, when I
Yeah.
am kind of just sitting in front of the TV trying to avoid things, I am trying to avoid something. I want to, and a lot of the time, like 99% of the time for me, it's because I'm dysregulated and my nervous system is feeling stressed. And for me, those comforts of sitting and watching Netflix all night, or, eating something that I probably shouldn't be, or going to bed late, scrolling on TikTok, like all these things that we all do as human
That give
beings.
instant gratification and comfort at the end of the day because we're all dopamine addicts, let's face it.
Absolutely. And I know that when I'm like almost addicted to those things, like, it's not just one night, it's I've done it for a whole week, I've done it for 2, 3 weeks, and then I'm thinking like,
Yeah.
I haven't read my book in a while, or I'm going to bed feeling stressed. Like, why is this? I realize my nervous system has been trying to get relief from something, and my body is trying to get relief. Maybe I've been stressed, maybe I've been overworked, maybe I'm just going through an emotionally challenging time. And Jessica McGuire, who's a fantastic expert on the nervous system, came on my podcast and actually said, like, there's up-regulating and down-regulating with the nervous system. So down-regulating can look like shutting down, switching off, and this is what I do. I literally cannot message people back when I'm in this place. I literally just need to like hermit away, and that's something called down-regulating. Whereas
We're overwhelmed by
up-regulating,
small things, right? It's like all like the
yeah.
smallest things are stressing you out. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's important for people to recognize, is this something you resonate with? Is it actually your nervous system is overworked, it's overstressed, it's at its capacity, and you're down regulating to cope and to just feel good and to just feel some relief? Or is it, for instance, maybe you're in a pattern of bad eating and you've been in that pattern for months and months and months, or going to bed at midnight, or whatever it is, whatever we call the bad habit. But what relief? What are you trying to get relief from? That's the question I always ask myself. What am I trying to get relief from? Is it a
Yeah.
stressful day? Is it a difficult emotion? Is it a difficult conversation? Is it something that I just want to switch off from? But why do I want to switch off from it? So I always ask myself, like, what am I trying to get relief from? And then I can start to say, okay, why am I resisting that? Like, why does it feel uncomfortable to me to just not deal with that thing or get it off my to-do list, or whatever the
Avoiding
situation is?
small things or like bigger things too.
Yeah, and it can be those really micro things or huge things. Like, there's no kind of rule or rhyme to it. It's, sometimes we do feel more comfortable avoiding even the smallest of things because we don't want to, we were avoiding the big things as well. So it can show up
To
in
me,
our
it used
small
to be a
things.
pattern, the small, like the tiniest things, where I would be like, why am I not doing that? That's ridiculous. But it's usually like the
Yeah.
overall state of overwhelm that then puts us into like a free state, or we just, as you said, hermit and go into resistance. Like I'm resisting that.
Yeah, and I actually really want to share an example of this just because of how it reframed resisting things for me. And don't get me wrong, I still need this reminder every now and again, but for me, it's
Yeah.
changed hugely. But I avoided going to the dentist for a very, very long time. I had an irrational fear of the dentist, and I knew I had to get a filling done, and I avoided it for so many years because I was petrified. But I'd never had a negative experience at the dentist. I
Interesting.
didn't really have a fear of teeth or anything like that. So I was like, what is the block? Like, what am I actually scared of? Is it just the unknown? I've never had a filling before. Like, is it just the unknown of what that feels like? Anyway, I avoided it for years and years and years. Something else I avoided was learning how to drive. I actually passed my test at 28. And for me, that just felt right. But I knew subconsciously I was avoiding it. And I couldn't work out why
Yeah.
those two things I just resisted to hell. Anyway, completely unrelated. This was years ago now. I kept hitting a ceiling in my business financially. And it was one day I realized that me avoiding the dentist, looking after my teeth and making sure they were healthy for my lifetime, and making my life so much freaking easier by learning to drive was related to my money blocks. And you wouldn't put the two and two together because why would driving equal money blocks, or why would teeth relate to money blocks? But I knew intuitively when I bit the bullet and stopped resisting these two huge blockers in my life that abundance was going to start pouring in where there were blocks elsewhere. So I went to the dentist, had my checkup, had my fillings done. Don't even know what I was worried about. They were lovely. It was so much easier than I thought. And now I freaking love going to the dentist and looking after my teeth. Learned how to drive, had the best experience ever. My instructor had like this really cool Mercedes car. I felt so bougie. I absolutely loved it. Passed first time. Now I love driving. And as soon as I addressed those two big blockers, and they were huge blockers for years for me, guess what
Yeah.
poured in? Money, money, money. Hit my new, goals in the business. Abundance flowed so much easier. And I hear it time and time again in my communities from people saying, I just can't look at my finances, or I avoid my finances. And I say, well, if you're avoiding your finances, money's avoiding you. Like, there is that divine mirror there of like attracts like in manifestation. So for me, it was in different areas. But when we have these huge resistances to doing things, whether it's like cleaning the car, taking the dog to the groomers, sometimes it's those big things like me learning to drive and going to the dentist. Sometimes it's the small to-do list. But when we do avoid those things, abundance starts avoiding us, because we create a vibration of resistance, even if it's not in the same area of what we're resisting. So that should inspire people to get those things ticked off their list. But also, it starts with change. And I always say to people, the version of yourself who has your desire, what are they doing every day? How are they showing up? How are they talking? How are they brushing their teeth? How are they eating their breakfast? What are they wearing? Where are they going? Who are they hanging out with? How are they feeling every day? And when you can
Yeah.
identify what that version of yourself is doing, start to do those things now. Implement, incrementally, not all at once, because that would be huge, but just little things daily of like, how does the version of myself who's wildly successful brush their teeth? Okay, well, I'm going to do that tomorrow. And start just doing those things. How does that version of yourself in your dream relationship do their skincare? Start doing that now. Because when you start to do those teeny tiny micro habits of how you brush your teeth, how you do your skincare, what time you wake up, how you eat breakfast, simple things that we all do every single day, you start to build, and the energy shifts. And this is what is called embodiment, which is alignment work. So this comes into step 4 of my manifestation process, of letting go, of when we're in this stage of letting go, we're no longer faking it till we make it, because we've gone through the process. It is real at that point. It's an embodiment. We are actually the version of ourselves who has our desire. We're in that frequency, we're in that energy, and we're just waiting for almost reality to catch up with who we are energetically. So it is an energetic thing for sure, but it always starts with habits. So if you are noticing you're in bad habits, think about it. Okay, how does this version of me go to bed each night? Are they scrolling through TikTok, or are they meditating? Are they reading their book? Like, start challenging yourself and just do one thing. You don't need to change everything, because that's not consistent either. One thing at a time. Rome wasn't built in a day. So one step. What is one thing you can do today or tomorrow to start implementing the version of yourself who has your desire, and then build off that, because you'll start seeing the shift. You'll start feeling better. You'll feel the shift. So you'll want to and feel more inspired to make more changes as you go. But take your time. They always say that 21 days is to create a habit, change a thought pattern. So see how you feel over those 21 days, and just really keep in your mind of, am I resisting things? If I am, I need to get that ticked off so I can open the gates to abundance again. But also, what is that version of me doing, and how can I start embodying that here and now?
I absolutely love this. This is absolutely, and I love your little stories about that, because that's so relatable. I feel like for a lot of people, they'll be like, oh yeah, like I've been putting this one thing or those 2, 3, 4, 5 big things or smaller things off for a while. And I think then it's really interesting to ask yourself, where is that resistance coming from? Because for you, in your case, you said you never had a bad dentist experience. Like, you couldn't really pinpoint like, where is that resistance coming from? And I think it's quite interesting, because when you ask yourself that question, you have more clarity around like, is there any irrational fears? Is there any limiting beliefs? And then when you do the hard thing, that's how you, one, obviously build self-trust, but then also you build momentum, because you realize, oh, it's actually not that bad. And then it becomes easy to do the previously hard thing. And then you remove, as you said, this energetic blockage of, well, if I keep resisting this thing, or keep putting this thing off that I know is good for me, because it's usually things that are good for us that
Yeah.
we're resisting, right? That's when the universe is like, oh, like she's doing things that are good for her, and like then the life is also always mirroring that back, right? Like how you treat yourself, how you show up for yourself. If you make your life easier, if you look after yourself, if you make yourself become healthier, happier, right? Like all those things. So I think this is a huge one. Um, you created, and I'm not sure if this is also part of this, but it's called the alignment protocol. Like, I've seen this. What exactly is it, and how do you according to this protocol, how do you align with your desires? Like, what exactly, like, is there a process behind this too? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, so the alignment protocol is something in my book, Aligned Abundance, that I share right at the beginning of, do we know if we're in or out of alignment? Because alignment is such a buzzword thrown around the manifestation sphere
It
right now. And I'm
is.
so glad, because when I started writing this book in 2021, nobody was talking about it. So now I'm like, fantastic. Like, the book came out at the perfect time to really help people.
Yeah.
And it's funny because my publisher was like, Emma, nobody's talking about alignment. Nobody wants this book. And I was like, trust me, trust the vision. And, 4 or 5 years later, here we are. But the alignment protocol is essentially how we know if we're in or out of alignment. So the first step is stop. So if it was in alignment, it would be flowing. If it's feeling like an uphill battle, you're getting constant rejections and closed doors. Something is out of alignment. Something needs to be looked at here. The next step is reset. So for me, I'm going to give an example of this, of what this looked like in my life, ironically, with the book Aligned Abundance. When I was writing the book and obviously pitching the book to be published by a publisher, I was getting no's absolutely everywhere. This was in 2023. But again, look what I shared, what happened for me in 2023, like huge dark nights of the soul, huge initiations. And there's me thinking that I was going to be manifesting a book deal during all of that as well. So I'd gone through the whole of 2023 working with Penguin, going through this book, trying to get it published, and we'd changed the name, we'd done so much. And at the end of 2023, obviously I'd gone through so much, as you've heard. They turned around and said, we just don't get it. We just don't think people know about alignment or want to learn about alignment. And I was like, you're kidding me. I've spent a whole freaking year with you on this, and now you come back and say this. And that was almost like the last like interest in the book as well. So I was like, my own publisher, Watkins, were like, we just don't get it. So I was kind of like, right, there is no other options at this point. Obviously I'm going to take some time off to reflect, to reset, but clearly something's out of alignment here, and I don't know why, because my intuition is telling me so freaking loudly this book is needed and is going to come out in the world. So I knew that this book had to come out without a shadow of a doubt, but I didn't know how. I didn't know how it was going to happen. I was getting no's everywhere, rejections, and I was just like, well, that's it, universe. There isn't any more options at this point. So what am I meant to do? Help me out here. So this was over Christmas 2023. And I did. I stopped. I took my energy back and was like, right, I'm going to reclaim my power. I'm going to sit with this proposal and look at what is not in alignment here, because clearly this book is going to test me about alignment, seeing as it's on alignment. So we need to walk my talk with all of this. So I sat down over the Christmas period and I read through the chapters, read through the proposal, and I was like, this is not reflective of who I am here and now. I have walked through like 100 different versions of myself this year, uncovering trauma, going through this dark night of the soul. I wrote this proposal, back in 2022. So it's not even reflective of the lessons I've learned this year and who I am after a huge initiation of a year. So that Christmas, I sat down and I rewrote it all. I deleted 10,000 words, rewrote new 10,000 words, reframed every single chapter, up-leveled everything. And I looked at that proposal and I was like, that's a bestseller, Emma. That is your best work to date. Like, this is feeling freaking magnetic. This is literally like so freaking good. And I just felt so excited about the book. And I was like, this is why this has happened, because it wasn't in alignment with who I am now and also where I'm going and what this book needs. So in my head, I was like, right, come New Year, I'll sit down, think of some new publishers, work with my literary agent, and just start publishing, pitching again. Like, we'll just start afresh with some new publishers. And I trust that somehow, in some way, this book's going to come about. Anyway, within, I think it was 2 weeks of up-leveling the proposal, my original publisher, Watkins, came back to me and said, hey, Emma, that Align book that you pitched to us last year? We want to look at it again. We're actually really interested. Can you share the proposal again? And I was like, well, funny story. It's now called Aligned Abundance. I've been working with Penguin for a year on this. It's actually changed hugely since you've last seen it. And I've just actually redeveloped the whole structure and proposal. So yeah, here it is. And as if by magic, within 2 weeks of that, the book deal was signed and sealed, which is unheard of because it actually takes a long while for this to happen. So I was just like, that right there is alignment of stop, reset, and realign. So I reset the proposal. I reset the energy. I share in the book the the sum of intention plus action equals result. So if you're not getting the result that you want, you either need to change the intention or the action. So for me, it was a little bit of both in that scenario. So I up
Yeah.
leveled the energy to match who I was here and now. I up leveled the alignment to match who I am here and now and the work that I wanted to share in this book. And as if by magic, the publisher came, as if by magic, in a record time. And I think it was the new moon in Capricorn of all things, it got signed. And that was really, an example for me of that's how magnetic aligned abundance can be when it's in alignment, when it is in alignment with us and our soul's desires. So that realignment piece, that third step of the alignment protocol, is then realigning with, okay, now I have a different intention and action. Now I have up leveled whatever it is and met whatever this desire is with who I am here and now in this season. How do I want to take that aligned action moving forwards? And for me, I didn't even need to take the action because it was clearly so magnetic, the action came to me. But sometimes we do need to take that action of, okay, how can I go into this differently than before? How can I approach this differently? How is my energy different to how I was approaching this desire before? And when it's in alignment with your soul, there's nothing in this world that can stop it from happening.
I love this. So basically what you're saying is sometimes when we don't get what we want, but we know it is for us and it is meant for us and it is right for us, we need to pull our energy back. That's like literally what you said, and then reset. And I think for a lot of people, I feel like a reset almost feels like giving up because people are like, well, then I'm like letting myself down. Like it's not going to happen anymore, rather than just being like, let me approach this differently, from a different mindset, from a different state, from a different vibration, feeling differently about it. Like sometimes it takes small like tweaks. In your case, it took you deleting 10,000 words. But like, right. But either way, it's like resetting, it's like realigning. And sometimes when we think everything is aligned, it takes a lot to actually acknowledge, well, maybe it's not. Maybe it's not. Maybe it is the intention, as you said, or the action that needs to be looked at again. And I think that's something a lot of people are scared of because, again, it feels like you're letting yourself down or like it's not happening anymore. And it takes courage to do that. So I love that this is a great example of things come in divine timing, but it has to be fully congruent with who you are being now, not the version of you like a year or so ago. And so I'm curious, Emma, like, what are some of your favorite tools to align with your truth, with your highest timeline? Like, what are some of the things, apart from a reset, which that in itself is super powerful, what else can people do, like in the sense of like a tool, like something they can do, like a little action that helps to realign with their highest desire, their highest good, their highest timeline, their highest self?
Yeah, I would say there's two things that I love to do, which are like my go-tos in this situation.
Yeah.
So the first one is an affirmation. And this has served me so much, even throughout the last year as I've been getting married and planning my wedding, inevitable stress that happens with that. This affirmation has served me so many times, and I want to share it with people because it really does align you with your highest timeline. So when something or a situation is feeling helpless, when it's feeling stuck, when it's feeling stagnant, when I feel like, what the heck am I going to do? I say in that moment, universe, I'm choosing the highest timeline in this situation for all involved, for the highest good of all. And just by affirming that you're choosing the highest timeline in this situation, it may not be a miracle that appears miraculously that day. It might not be the solution to even the problem that I have, but without fail, that same day, a miracle will come. I will feel different in myself, how I'm perceiving the situation. I'll feel different and I'll shift and I'll think, actually, I feel empowered. And a recent example of this is one of my team members is sadly moving on, and they're an absolute powerhouse. I'm absolutely gutted, and instantly, as soon as they handed in their resignation, I've just had this nervous system dysregulation of, what the hell am I going to do? Oh my God, this person's my right hand woman. What's going to happen? Oh my gosh, like I'm going to have to take on all this work again. My nervous system went into that panic mode. And I sat there and I was like, Emma, you know better. We're going to trust. We're going to trust that this is happening for whatever reason. We don't need to figure out the reason right now, but we just need to trust. And I repeated the mantra of, universe, I'm choosing the highest timeline in this situation for all those involved, for the highest good of all. And that day I had that reframe of, what if we, with the direction we want to go with the business, I've been calling in some things for a while now. What if this has happened to welcome in someone new who's going to get us to exactly where I've been asking to go for so long? And I was like, okay, so I can actually look at this. You know, obviously I processed the grief, the emotions, the loss, all the human things of losing that person. But then, you know, I was able to regulate into a place of, but this isn't the end, Emma. You know the score now. You know the universe is going to show up with a superstar. You know the universe is going to show up and support you. You know the drill now. So calling upon my trust list was so important during that time. And I recommend anybody doing this, where if you are struggling to trust and trust in the process, or trust yourself in the universe, they go hand in hand, then write a list down of all the times the universe has supported you, shown up with miracles, when a manifestation felt impossible against all odds, and against all odds it's manifested. Write these things down, because in these moments of wobble, you can look at that trust list and show your subconscious mind, see, look at all this evidence, look at all the times the universe has supported me and I'm actually like gonna be fine. So that really does help me in those moments. So that affirmation, without fail, always helps me to see things differently, manifest support, manifest solutions really, really quickly as well. So I definitely recommend doing that. The second part to it is actually letting go and surrendering. Something we hear about all the time now, but something that definitely wasn't spoken about in old school teachings, and something that for me has been one of the, it still continues to be a lesson in surrender and one of the biggest journeys of my spiritual journey. But for me, when I am in that place of like, I want to come back into alignment, I really need a miracle, I need things to shift, it is all in the letting go. I've fixated on the how somewhere. I am trying to control the vision or see how this is going to happen or how it's going to unfold. And that knowing the hows is actually blocking me. So reminding yourself to be truly open to all possibilities means all possibilities, even the possibility of it not happening. You might think, and I hear it time and time again from people, well, Emma, this is the only way it can happen. But the fact that you're saying that is blocking the 1,000 other possibilities of how your desire can come into your life even more easily, even more effortlessly. So I really use it as an initiation to surrender the hows even deeper, to surrender to the divine feminine of, allowing myself to be met by support, by receiving. So for me, it's definitely a piece of affirming and asking for the highest timeline, but then also relaxing into surrendering and letting go to allow myself to be met by the most aligned opportunity, by the most aligned timeline for that desire to come in. So the amount of times I hear people saying they're open to all possibilities, and then I actually ask them the real in-depth questions and they're like, oh no, I'm only open to 2 possibilities. We have to be open to all. And that means it not happening, and that means the 100 million other ways that your desire could come into your life. So stop focusing on the hows, whens, ifs, buts, whys, especially the why when things are going wrong. We don't need to know the why, not at this moment in time. Maybe it will reveal itself in however long, maybe it won't. So we have to get uncomfortable with change, or comfortable with change, even though it can feel uncomfortable, and really allow ourselves to be met by those miracles and solutions through the power of our surrender.
I love this. And I love that you're bringing up surrender, because I think for most people, that is the hardest part. I know a lot of women who have an easy time doing the hard things, going for it, like pushing themselves. But then when it comes to leaning back, that's like, ooh, like I feel powerless, right? Like it feels like you're giving up your power because you're not even trying to control, micromanage, like be so on top of it anymore. And what I've really found to be powerful is just detaching from it, in the sense that you don't even need it anymore. You still desire it. You're still like, I have my eyes on this and I would love that to happen at some point. I don't care when though. And if it doesn't show up, I'm also fine, because my life is overflowing. So what I've found is that creating so much overflow in your life that you get to focus on, like so much abundance basically, that really helps with detaching from, even if it's a big thing, honestly, even if it's like, oh, this dream position, this dream job, or this dream person, or this dream, whatever it is, like even if it feels big, just being like, okay, if that was not to happen, my life would still be so freaking incredible, overflowing, yummy, pleasurable, fulfilling. Like, I don't even need it. I desire it, and I will honor that. And I'll let it come to me. If it is right for me, it will, at a time that I can't foresee and I don't have to, in ways that I can't even, again, possibly imagine. As you said, like usually the best things come into our life completely randomly at times that we maybe even find inconvenient, or we're like, why now? Why, like, what is this? And then in ways where we're like, come on, this is a joke, right? It's a universe joke, but it's so good because it's like it's a beautiful surprise, and it really comes with trusting yourself that you can handle that surprise element and not needing basically being detached. So I absolutely love this. I absolutely love this, Emma. And now that we're wrapping things up, my final question for you is, what is your top tip to unfuck your life for our listeners based on either what we spoke about today, or something completely random that just comes to you right now? Like, what is one tangible thing that our listeners can basically implement, run with right away?
Yeah. Well, I want to say, first of all, what you said before, 100% agree with. You'll always manifest it when you need it the least. That happens time and time again.
And
It's always
that's
when
the
you need it
fun
the least.
part. I love
It is the
it.
fun part. And it will always happen in a way you never, ever imagined. And you'll think, wow, I never could have
True.
visualized that or seen that. And that is those 100 other million possibilities that can come in. And when we detach,
Exactly.
it aligns.
Exactly.
But yeah, in terms of how to unfuck your life, I think the biggest thing that I do, I mean, I do believe we're always where we're meant to be. So I would say where you are is where you're meant to be in your journey right now. But I would say the biggest thing that I've done is stop tolerating my bullshit. So I will get to a place
Mm.
where I'm like, oh, I'm just so frustrated that I haven't manifested this, or I'm so frustrated that I'm playing small, or this has happened, or I know what I want and I'm just so frustrated that I'm not getting there. And then I'll realize, well, it's actually you who's the blocker, Emma. Like, you're doing this thing that's actually blocking you. So I always say, like, the biggest catalyst of change is when you get sick of your own bullshit, and then you'll be like, right, I'm making a change. I'm doing this thing now. So I do believe there is divine timing with that, of course. Like, I've always felt that those inner work pieces, those big revelations have always come when I've needed them, and at the right
Yeah.
time for my nervous system and where I am in my journey. But for me,
Yeah.
the biggest things that have unfucked my life is getting sick of my own bullshit and then making the change and then actually doing it.
Yeah, because sometimes we're so comfortable and sometimes we're not in enough almost pain that we're
Yeah.
causing ourselves by settling, by not going for the thing, by not doing the hard thing. And then eventually when we get to this point of I can't stand it anymore, then that's usually what, like, because what I always say to my clients too is like, you're either pain or pleasure motivated. I feel like more people are pain motivated. So like that really relates to like what you're saying here. I feel like I'm a little bit of both. I'm probably more pain than pleasure motivated as well. So like probably like a 70-30 split or something, 60-40. And that is so fair. So like whenever you're in a place of like, oh, this is not quite what I want, but I'm not sick enough of my own bullshit. Get yourself to a place. Like, get yourself to a place where you're like, no, like, this is absolutely not it. Like, I deserve so much more. I can do so much better. And then demanding more from yourself. Because I feel like a lot of people want more, but they won't be able to step up their own game when it comes to basically all we talked about today: your vibration, your frequency, the way you hold yourself, the way you show up for yourself, the way you take care of yourself, the way you regulate yourself, the way you change your habits, the way you change your patterns, right? Like the way you look at your stuff, which is always temporarily uncomfortable, but it's so necessary in the foundation. So I'm loving this. Thank you so much for sharing. That's such a great tip, is like get tired of your bullshit a little faster and then change the thing, not just temporarily but for good. So thank you so much for coming on today, Emma. That was incredible. For everybody listening, you can find all the links to Emma's Instagram page, her book, her website, and so on in the show notes. Don't forget to give this podcast a rating if you enjoyed this episode. You can also share it on your stories and tag us so we can see that you enjoyed it. We'd love to hear from you. And to get notified when the next episode goes live, you can simply subscribe to either podcast or Apple Podcasts or iTunes, so you never miss a beat. Thank you so much again, Emma, and I'll speak to you, babes, very soon.